Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second game between Millenium and Avalanche Prime. First game went in a surprising manner towards Millenium. Now it was quite the game to watch and cast. Now I am once again joined by Spuddington, and we are really looking forward to this second game, I believe.
Yeah, So the thing about that last game that was so interesting about it was that Millenium had such a big advantage for such a long time, but just weren't able to deal with how well Avalanche was making calls and making plays. And that one final minor overextension finally let them crack the turtle shell and let them get to the sweet, succulent inhibitor flesh underneath. So they were able, as a result, to win the game. But if that had continued on at the pace it was going, Avalanche, even if they had lost that Baron, might well have been able to come back into it, because gold was getting to a point where, well, most of Millenium were item capped, so they couldn't actually get any stronger, and eventually, by virtue of that, Avalanche would have gotten stronger and fought them. So what's interesting now is whether Avalanche have some kind of plan to put themselves in a situation where they're less behind early on, and whether Millenium are going to look to try and pick out a team comp that's much better at actually cracking that turtle shell should that situation arise again. Regardless, though, we have got the bans coming in, and I should mention, guys, for the duration of Champion Select, because there are only 2 spectator slots and we're on the live servers, we are going to be a little bit delayed, so you'll see what the picks are, and then we'll see the picks at the same time, and then we'll talk about them, and then that will come back through on the stream, so we'll be a bit behind. So regardless, though, Lee Sin Ziggs, Vi, Jarvan the 4th, Fiddlesticks, and Elise.
Alright, so now it's Doigby's turn to make a pick for his team here. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Millenium were actually to take that Lissandra for the second time. Now, it is looking like he's actually hovering over that Annie, which wouldn't surprise me either, because Mover did actually do quite a good job in that on that Annie last game. So we might just see Millenium taking that away from Avalanche this game, and it is looking like Doigby is actually going to lock in the Annie.
Yeah, this game is going to be quite different, because both of the teams are taking away a lot of the different things that the other team was relying on last game. So the Jarvan the 4th mid that Millenium ran last game, that snowballed really hard, that roamed with Kha'Zix very well, and just did a really strong job overall, that's been banned. That's not available this time, so Millenium are going to have to run with a completely different strategy in mid lane, because nobody plays quite like a Jarvan the 4th mid. Millenium, on the other hand, they banned out the Ziggs, which was so huge in Avalanche's defense. That is going to prevent Avalanche from playing quite as much of a defensive game. Will not be able to hold on for as long. So, really nice choices there. We'll see what Avalanche is gonna go for their team comp. The defining theme for them, though, is always wave clear. They always like to take a team that at least has good wave clear.
Alright, so now Dan taking that Shyvana as Slyra takes the Sona. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Anstrom would use that Shyvana in the top lane once again, because he also did quite a tremendous job on the Shyvana in that top lane until the point where he could probably 1v1 his counterpart Doigby without any real trouble. Now, Shlea is hovering over that Lucian. Now, it would surprise me if they actually were to lock that one in, because I haven't actually seen the Lucian in competitive play. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure where that goes for you as well.
Well, Nature, Lucian is an unusual choice, because the thing that looks like it's his defining feature, the thing where you look at Lucian, you see what his skills do, and you're like, wow, that ultimate looks amazing. His ultimate actually isn't really what's really good about Lucian. He's actually really strong as a fairly bursty AD carry, plays well early on, and is also so resilient when you've got enemies like Nasus, so he's got the slows. He's actually quite a strong choice if you choose him in the right situation. As it is, they don't know what they're up against, so in this case, they've just gone with the very safe pick. They've gone for Caitlyn. So Lucian actually stronger than you initially would have thought when he was released. However, we have also got a Rengar lock-in. So Millenium looking for, well, presumably a top lane Rengar, but possibly the jungler.
Yeah, so of course we don't know where this is going either, as we did have quite a lot of unconventional picks, if you will, last game around. Now Anstrom is hovering over that Xin Zhao for this game. Now it would not surprise me, well, nothing would surprise me at this point, to be honest, as we did see the Jarvan mid and the Shyvana top last game, as he does lock it in. So I do think that is going to be another Shyvana top, while it is going to be the Xin Zhao in the jungle.
It's an interesting question, actually, there, because you've got Shyvana potentially as a top laner against Rengar, probably going to outtrade him. But if you actually put Rengar against Xin Zhao, then you have a really, really bursty lane. That actually suits you better if you plan on ganking him a lot. It'll be interesting what they choose to go for. Avalanche certainly do like to run Shyvana as a top laner. We saw it last game. We may have seen it in the past, and they always like to have a really heavy wave clear top lane like Singed or like Shyvana. So interesting choices abound. And Millenium hovering over Tryndamere. Now, that could mean Rengar jungle, and as a result, you would then have Tryndamere versus Shyvana. Renekton would also work, but I'm actually not confident Renekton can outtrade Shyvana if it comes as a top laner. So I really, there are a lot of flexible picks here, and it's not very easy to definitively say this is exactly what is going to happen, because they're just so flexible here.
All right, so we do have your final lineups almost, as Big Goose is right now hovering over that Nidalee. Maybe looking to complement that poke of the Slivers Ezreal, which wouldn't surprise me either. Now he has locked that one in, so it is looking like it is going to be a Nidalee mid lane and a Shyvana top lane, yes, as Anstrom gets that Shyvana switched towards him. Now Dan will be running that Xin Zhao in the jungle. So, do you favor any of these team compositions over the other, or do you think they're quote-unquote equal?
If I had to say which team I would favor here, I would say I favor Millenium's team comp overall. They have some really, really cool stuff here. They have a really, really strong, safe mid laner. Going to be very, very difficult for the aggressive ganking jungler Xin Zhao to get that, if that's what they're choosing to run. They also have a fairly safe laner in the form of Renekton. They also have a very safe laner in the form of Caitlyn. So, going to be a lot of pressure on Dan to try and get stuff done with that. The other thing is they're running this Rengar jungle, which is just really, really not something I've ever expected to see in competitive outside of solo queue, because it's just very fiddly to make it work, and you need to have a lot of individual skill and so much coordination. But if he gets out of control, Rengar can just completely solo carry a game. Regardless though, guys, we are going to go on a quick break while we wait for the delay timer to tick down. So this will be, good 2 minutes 30 or so beyond that, and also loading time, so a little bit longer than that. But regardless, guys, going into a quick break, we will see you after this with the second game of Avalanche Prime versus Millenium.
swear upon the evening rain, when earth is drowning slowly, I'll carry you 1,000 miles and won't let you be lonely.
I'll ignite the fire. I'll take a stand and carry you higher, higher.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. This is Millenium versus Avalanche Prime. I am Spuddington, joined by Nature, and this is a 1-0 advantage in a best-of-3 format to Millenium. So, we are underway, and we have both teams kind of lining up. Nature, how are you doing?
I am doing very fine myself. Thank you very much. So as you said, both teams lining up to go for a invade here. Or no, it isn't looking like Avalanche are actually going to invade here. However, Millenium have started to make some aggressive maneuvers here with the 5 of them. Dude with his stun charged up, and Dan might be in serious trouble here. And I don't think he's actually spotted someone out who just came out of that brush. Now, Anstrom has been spotted out by that ward, so he might be in trouble if he chooses to come too close to Millenium. Now he is going very close. Will he get stunned? Yes, he gets stunned, taking a lot of damage. He's got ignited, so much damage coming down, and will it be enough? Flash getting burned by Ifresh, and yes, it is enough. First blood goes to Millenium once again.
I've actually got to say there, though, Anstrom probably could have survived that if he had flashed away earlier. I think he underestimated his own tankiness and ability to just withstand Millenium's entire team. So a little bit unusual there, but iFresh will be picking up that red buff to start with. Xin Zhao going to be taking away his own blue. Whether he then chooses to rush to the enemy red or not is going to be a big point of contention in this early game, because iFresh could either choose to go for like an early aggressive gank, he's actually recalling, or now Dan could go for that aggression at the bot. For that red buff. It's going to be, this is going to get messy if they fight for it.
Alright, so Dude heading towards that red buff as well. Now Dan is moving towards the same area. Now Schleyer is waiting near that red buff. So he has been spotted out. Now he has used that pink ward of his to start and clear out the wards. Now Dan has actually stolen the red buff with his smite. Schleyer made an attempt to secure it for his team, but it wasn't quite enough. And look at this, Millenium are actually going for a 2 versus 1 middle lane. That indicates to me they'll be looking to push this middle turret down as fast as they can, especially with the Caitlyn, of course.
Yeah, that achieves them 2 things right there. They don't have to deal with the relatively high damage and all-in potential of Sona and Ezreal, so less easy to set up ganks for Xin Zhao. And it also takes advantage of the fact that Nidalee early on just has no counter push power. She just cannot clear a wave to save her life. And she just, well, she doesn't farm well under tower either. So it's just, you know, basically Nidalee in this situation early on just has no beans. Like, if usefulness at this stage of the game was Nidalee, she has like a bean, maybe half a bean on the scale of beans. Big Goose taking a lot of damage. You can see he can't even trade auto attacks with the enemy AD carry. That's how few beans he has.
Alright, so once again, Nanook trying to clear those minions as fast as you can, for the reasons you just stated. Now, iFresh has been spotted out by this ward while he was moving towards that middle lane area, and he is moving towards that top lane area, but he might just be a little bit too late if he decides to gank Anstrom, as Anstrom is backing away already. Now he picks himself up a ward and a couple of potions, while iFresh clears out that jungle of Avalanche Prime, starting with the Wraiths. As it is looking like Dan might be trouble here for Schleyer. He has been spotted out by the ward, I believe. As once again, this turret is going very, very low. And Avalanche Prime might just be able to, well, counter that aggression of Milleniums. As right now, once again, iFresh and Answer meeting in that jungle and facing off a little bit right there.
And this is actually the thing we see from Avalanche really well. Like, they are a really good team when it comes to making calls like this. You see, Rengar went into the enemy jungle and they guessed he was there. They guessed that what he was going to do was take all of the things and steal away all of Dan's jungle. But that doesn't matter if he's busy pushing bot, turning that pushing power of Millenium in the mid lane on its head. That means that now Avalanche have taken the tower first, in spite of having the weaker pushing lane. So now, if they want to, they can continue to push the bot lane, they can look to go for this mid lane themselves, or they can look to make some other kind of play. iFresh taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, iFresh indeed taking a lot of damage. There are 3 members of Avalanche Prime heading in towards his middle lane right now. iFresh might be in some serious trouble. There just uses those hymns of valor as he backs away, and it is looking like actually Millenium got the short end of that trade.
It does indeed, and like I say, really good call and decision making from Avalanche there. So, see if they are able to turn that into something more. They are now pushing in the mid lane with 4 members. Big Goose still hasn't even hit level 6. Once he has, he'll be able to, you know, roam around a little bit more, but it looks like they intend to send him now bottom lane to maybe deal with the Gragas push, which suits them quite well, because once he's hit level 6, the usual problem you have with Nidalee in a long lane like that is that you lack an escape. Post 6, not a problem for Nid. Cougar form is one of the best escapes in the game.
It is indeed, as Nanook and Dude are now desperately defending their middle lane against Sliver and Mover. Now, Nanook is 1 level higher than Sliver. They both do have the same items, I believe. Yes, they do. So that is not going to be a real problem for Sliver at this point. As we do have Doigby actually pushing that lane in towards the turn of Anstrom's, and he is just backing away as he is sitting on around 1,000 gold, so he might be buying something nice for himself here.
Yeah, 1,000 gold, decent amount. If you are going to be 80, that might well be something relevant. But I feel like at the moment this mid tower will actually probably fall eventually if Millenium keeps pushing it in a 2-on-2, but I just don't see that realistically happening right now. iFresh going to be taking away his enemy's red buff and not yet hitting 6, so he's not going to be getting any easy ganks off. And Dan may look to steal the enemy red if he sees that Rengar is not there himself. The other option, though, of course, is for Avalanche now to group up in the mid lane with 4 men, Big Goose face planting the wall. They could potentially take that tower if they can catch it when Rengar isn't there to defend, because that's not a lot of wave clear with only the 2 characters there, and they don't want to risk being dived.
Alright, so Nanook and Dude once again trying to do as much damage as they can in this middle lane on that middle outer turret, but they are getting shoved away a little bit too fast than they would like. Now Dan is looking to maybe make something happen here. He has been spotted out by that ward though, so iFresh is waiting for him, but Dan just backs away wisely as he might have realized he had been spotted out as Nanook and both Dude were heading towards him.
Yeah, actually, they are going to find Dude though.
Yeah, Dude getting slowed by that slash. Dan taking a lot of damage. He doesn't go down quite yet, as he does in the end by the red buff of iFresh. Now Sliver does use that arcane shift away, but Mover might be in trouble here. Gets stunned up, as we do have Millenium actually backing away from there, as they did notice Big Goose heading towards them, but also that second kill going towards Millenium here.
Caught off guard there by Rengar's just extreme burst, and the fact that he was in the brush, barely any warning. He didn't even have to use his ult to sneak up on them, so that gives Millenium the advantage now. They will take this mid tower off the back of that, and then, well, Big Goose is actually heading up there, but I doubt he can get there in time. Actually, they're just going to recall, and okay, fair enough. Does get Dude out of the way and doesn't have to worry about being killed by Big Goose as a result. But that does actually mean Avalanche have still got that tower. They still have that map control. And I kind of wonder whether they're going to either push the mid tower or look for the dragon.
Yeah, so right now Avalanche Prime have realized that the larger part of Millenium have backed away at this point. So that tower taking a lot of damage. And it is looking like that second turret of the game is once again going to Avalanche Prime, as they might be looking to take a little bit of a jungle presence here as well. But they just back away here and take enough with what they have, and that is going to be that outer turret, but that might result in them rotating over towards that dragon, as you just said, which would of course not be too nice for Millenium, and that might result in quite a little bit of trouble if they decide to do so. But it is actually looking like Avalanche Prime are going for this inner turret in that middle lane.
And this is the roaming style that Avalanche love to play. They love to play these games where you end up matching calls with them, because Avalanche always make really good calls. They might actually sometimes make mechanical misplays, or, you know, if they're in, you know, if you put them in a 2-on-2 with equal situations, Avalanche might end up losing, but they make such good calls and they're always on point with their roams, with their location of their players, and you can see it in the tower advantage. Even last game, where they ended up falling behind early and losing a massive gold advantage due to just team fights and their lanes failing, they were still ahead in towers at this stage. This game, they're much more even. And given how well they actually held on the last game when they were that far behind, it looks good for Avalanche right now.
Yeah, Schleier might be in trouble though. He has used that explosive cast to get out of there, as Big Goose was trying to kill him. But we do have iFresh, and maybe as a result of that rotating over towards that bottom lane, Big Goose might be in trouble, as he doesn't have a lot of mana, so he won't be able to do a whole lot if iFresh actually catches him. Now iFresh has started to come out of that brush, but he just as he just backs away because he was spotted out by the trap. Now they might just be looking to start a push of their own on this middle outer turret of Avalanche Primes, but Dan is there to deter them from doing anything in Millenium's favor, I think.
And I would just like to note, by the way, if Millenium choose to go for the dragon right now, that might not be a bad call for them, because Big Goose, who would normally be a huge presence just because middly poke is so paramount in that kind of dragon poke fight, hasn't actually shopped yet, or actually now has shopped and will be running back into lane fairly quickly. Millenium are actually going to take advantage of that and will probably be able to take that dragon before he can get back in. But if they had fought even when he was there, he just wouldn't have had nearly as much damage as you nearly expect to, because what was it, 2,000, 3,000 gold he was just sitting on hatching?
Yeah, that is quite a lot of gold indeed to sit on, and now has spent that on the Athene's Unholy Grail. Now iFresh once again heading towards Big Goose. He has used that Thrill of the Hunt, but he is taking a lot of damage as a result of Big Goose. They did manage to take down the turret, but we do have Dan heading towards his bottom lane. This might be problem rather for Millenium, as I struggle with my words there. Now Dan has caught up to them. This is surely going to be trouble for iFresh. iFresh taking so much damage as the Crescent Sweep comes down. iFresh might just be able to make this. He jumps on towards Mover, dodges a crescendo, but he goes down in the process. Mover has picked that kill up as Nanook actually takes down the turret in that middle lane. Now that was a great dodge of the crescendo, but it wasn't quite enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, you absolutely can't fault I'm So Fresh in terms of his individual playmaking, though. That was really, really nice stuff. Dodging the crescendo, avoiding Xin Zhao's damage, and kind of throwing him off with the timing on the heal. Just really, really solid all around. Ends up dying anyway, but you know, solid performance from him. Now the question is, what are Avalanche going to do now? They've actually lost a little bit of gold right now, so, you know, losing that dragon has put them that little bit behind, but they're still very, very much on even grounds. It seems that Anstrom has become strong enough that Renekton no longer wants to fight him one-on-one, and that can be exploited to give them a lot of pushing power and lane rotation presence. The question is, where will they try and exploit that? Because if they can get Rengar to commit 2v1 in that top lane, that could give them an advantage, but it actually looks like they are planning on going for the 3v1 in the top lane themselves. Doigby has spotted it, has been slowed, but I doubt they're going to get anywhere.
Yeah, he has been slowed by the power cord. He did make it under his turret, as iFresh does manage to pick up his own blue buff. Now, we do have Anstrom once again rotating over towards that top lane, his very own lane, as it is looking like they once again might be able to take down this top outer turret. As a result of that, we do actually have Nanook and Shleya pushing this middle lane, and they are doing so much damage on that turret. And we do have Trusha Barrage coming across. Nanook might be in serious trouble here as Dan has found him. The Mover goes down. In the meantime, Nanook taking so much damage, he goes down to Anstrom. Nanook has, or actually rather Mover has already fallen to iFresh, I believe, as this might be the opportunity for Millenium to actually start pushing on their or on Avalanche Prime's top outer turret, but that might open the opportunity for Avalanche Prime on their turn to start pushing on Millenium's inhibitor turret.
Avalanche 5 steps ahead of you here. They've gone, as you predicted there, they've gone for that, Millenium went for that top tower, Avalanche going for the middle, so they did not actually manage to take the tower out, but that damage on that inhibitor tower is arguably more valuable than losing an outer tower themselves. They also get this red buff just for a kicks, and that will be a nice little pickup for them. They should be able to get some decent warding down, but unfortunately they haven't actually brought any in this jungle east, so, you know, minor problem for them there. But Avalanche, really, really good playmaking and call making. That is what they do as a team. I don't know if I mentioned that yet.
Alright, so Big Goose connecting the javelin onto Dude right there. As you can see, the damage on Dude is been around 70% of his total health, which is quite a lot, if you ask me. As he might just want to be very, very careful with his next step, as we do have Shleya and iFresh heading towards Dan, but Dan manages to make a clean escape, or does he? Because iFresh might just be running into him right here. iFresh jumps on towards him. Dan taking so much damage, he gets slowed by the Bola strike, but he does manage to get away. Now, as a result, we do have once again Avalanche Prime pushing, or shoving rather, this middle lane towards that inhibitor turret, and iFresh as well as Slayer might just want to back as fast as they can here, because this might spell serious trouble for Millenium. Now it isn't looking like Avalanche Prime are actually going to get this, because Millenium have done quite a great job defending that one.
Millenium this game, much better wave clear than the last one, so Avalanche aren't having as easy of a time just picking off 3 towers there. If Gragas is there, it generally just means you're going to need at least 2 waves to do any damage to a tower. He can always clear with ult and his Q. That does mean, actually, wow, he was looking for it there, but decided, I think, that follow-up was a little bit far away. Ezreal pushing in this top lane and Millenium forming up. Dan now needs to get to that mid lane fairly quickly, but the flip side is that Avalanche actually this game do not have such brilliant wave clear. Sona, Shyvana, Nidalee, not great unless they go for this.
Yeah, explosive casts come out, a big goose gets knocked away, but it wasn't used to that great extent. Now Millenium trying to back away desperately as iFresh gets caught by Anstrom. He tries to jump out once again, but it isn't quite enough as Anstrom picks him up. Now Nanook might be in trouble as Dan is trying to chase him down. Doigby and Shlea make a clean escape though. Dan now once again trying to get on Nanook. He manages to do it with a 3 talent strike. Once again, great crescendo on towards Nanook. Tibbers comes out, but it isn't quite enough as down goes. Whoa. Everyone suddenly is dead on the Millenium team. It's an ace for Avalanche Prime, and they only paid with it. With the life of Anstrom, things and kills happening all over the map here.
Really nice engage there from Anstrom, going super aggressive and obviously dying for it, but he started that fight off. iFresh is going to go for the dive on Dan.
Yeah, Dan goes down instantly. Now iFresh might be in trouble himself. Ignite is sticking. He goes down once again. An ace for Avalanche Prime, and I do think they will be taking an inhibitor off of that.
Yeah, that was really nice from Avalanche. Getting that fight, winning it straight up and outright, even though it was only 4v5, because Millenium dived but then kind of doubted themselves. If Millenium had just sieged there, they might have been able to just take a tower and back away. Ezreal was pushing top that whole time, able to get some free farm on himself, which is nice, but also able to turn up at the end of the fight for the cleanup there. So 1-0-3 on him. Full Triforce should be able to pick up a last Whisper after this Dragon. That is going to get scary because Caitlyn, by comparison, only on a Bloodthirster at the moment, which is a lot less.
So in the meantime, we've also got Anstrom, who is working on a Blade of the Ruined King, which is also going to hurt quite a lot when he finishes that. Now we do have Trushal Barrage coming across. That means the minions will be cleared out in that middle lane, and that will open up, of course, for the super minions to start hammering down on those Nexus turrets rather, if they get the chance. Now Anstrom might be looking to steal this blue buff here. Oh, he actually uses the Dragon's Descent. Will he get it? He doesn't quite manage to get it, as we do have iFresh actually smiting that one away. Now that means that Dragon's Descent won't be available for the next couple of minutes, but they did certainly scare iFresh, I think, and Nanook is once again trying to defend against these super minions, and that just might open up the window for Avalanche Prime to start pushing another lane.
Yeah, it's very snappy decision making again from Avalanche. You saw Shyvana dive in. She wasn't really hoping to actually get that blue buff. She just wanted to prevent Slayer from getting it. They know that they are actually at an advantage right now, and they want to push it. And it's much harder to push if you're against a Gragas with blue buff. As a result, take that away from him, even at the expense of a Shyvana ult, and that's damn well worth it for them. So they will be able to push this tower quite aggressively. However, Millenium are in position, and if they overcommit to damaging the tower, they could get Gragas ulted under it.
Yeah, Doigby using that slice and dice to clear out those minions as fast as he can. Now Avalanche Prime once again waiting for those minions to arrive. Now this really is a time bomb for Millenium, because those minions in that bottom lane are going to start stacking up against them and start hammering on their bottom inner turret. As right now we do have Avalanche Prime once again starting to try and do as much damage as they can on this turret. As other battles come out, Slimer taking quite a lot of damage. Now Doigby trying to go in here. Dan might be in trouble as iFresh dives onto Big Goose. We do have that Crescent Sweep coming out. Anstrom going very deep. Millenium might be looking to turn this around. Dan might be in trouble here. Anstrom taking quite a lot of damage once again. Dan going down to Nanook. Nanook using that ace in the hole. That catches on Sliver. Sliver blocking that one out for his teammate, using the arcane shift to get out. And that means they will be safe. It was a 2-4-2 situation right there. But Avalanche Prime are looking to push once again. I'm not too sure whether they can actually afford that. But hey, it's their decision over mine.
Remember, they have super minions pushing down the mid lane. Millenium need to react to that. And they have sustain, and they have a very tanky Anstrom. Look, free tower taken right there, Nature. And that is another advantage to Avalanche, even though that fight was iffy for them. If anything, the people that came out with more health at the end of the fight were Millenium, but Avalanche are the ones to take the advantage as a result of it. Nice objective focus gameplay there, and they will be able to move on to this red buff just to steal that away. Keep an eye on everything. So now it seems like Millenium may look to try and catch Anstrom here. He's actually he's contemplating it, but this could be risky because Gragas is right there.
Oh, here comes Slayer over the wall, using that barrel. Anstrom actually using that Dragon's Ascent to get out of there. He does manage to get out of there, and Slayer doesn't quite manage to pick up, or secure rather, that red buff for his team. That means that I'm not too sure who got it. I believe it was Sliver who got it with the True Shot Barrage. Now Dan might be trouble here for Slayer, but I'm not too sure Dan actually wants to fight this at this point. He might get closed in here. Big Goose. Oh, here comes iFresh onto Mover. Mover taking so much damage. He goes down almost instantly to Slayer, and Dan just gets forced away by that explosive cask and doesn't have any opportunity to help his teammate right there.
So Fresh is looking for the chance to jump on Big Goose here, but has been spotted by the trap, and it looks like they're going to be unable to get it unless Doiby can get the rush down, but I think they're not going to be able to manage this. And the danger if you pursue Nidalee too hard is you eat too many spears, then it gets turned around on you. So now Avalanche have lost Sona, yes, but they are actually once again pushing aggressively. Sona respawns, has got Crescendo, does not, I think, have Home Guard. Actually, no, she does not. But she will be able to join up relatively quickly. And Avalanche, in spite of the fact it's a 4-on-5, are willing to keep going for this because they know Millennium's engage is not very strong.
Yeah, so Avalanche Prime will probably be taking down this turn, as it is. Yeah, there you go. It is going down right now. Now we do have super minions hammering on that inhibitor, so Millenium will be forced to go over there if they do not want to lose another inhibitor. And iFresh might be in trouble here, as Dan is trying to chase him down, as he was trying to defend their base from those super minions. He's getting knocked up. Anstrom comes, and iFresh is surely going to down, or is he? Because here comes Tibbers Doigby trying to defend his base from the Avalanche Prime members, and he successfully does so. But in the meantime, we do have Big Goose and the rest of Avalanche Prime trying to take down this inhibitor, and they really, really want to take down this inhibitor because that would open up a lot of opportunities for them. Right now, Avalanche Prime trying to start pushing again. As Doigby eats a javelin, iFresh is cloaked, and Sliver goes down within a second here, as we do have that explosive cast coming out. Two-man crescendo on Doigby and Nanook. Now Slayer trying to chase down Mover here. Mover goes down to Doigby, as Dan and Anstrom trying to desperately get out of there. Now Big Goose got out of there as well, but that is a favorable situation for Millenium, so that might just result in them actually taking a Baron here.
They could take the Baron, but Anstrom is sneaking in for the inhibitor here. Look, he knew they would do this. He knew that that was the play they would make. He knows Slayer is there, though, so this could be a really risky duel between the two of them. Millenium surely will take this Baron, unless Nidalee can steal it with a spear, or kill someone with a spear. That could also happen. But at the moment, the real thing to watch is just this mid-lane fight. Looks like Slayer is actually getting the better of it, though. They are going to fight this.
Yeah, so here they go in towards that Baron pit. Move there, or we do have actually that Annie going down. Now we do have 2 kills coming down. We do have Avalanche Prime actually picking up that Baron. That is huge for them, as we do have Anstrom actually finishing off Slayer near that inhibitor, so he will be taking down that inhibitor. That is that second inhibitor, or that inhibitor falling for the second time on the Millenium side, and it will be quite the struggle from now on for Millenium, I believe.
Yeah, they are now firmly on the back foot. It was a nice, call to go for the Baron, but they just did not take account of how strong Nidalee is in that environment. She stayed around, she poked around, landed enough spears, and got them low enough that the two-man dive in was fully worthwhile. So, Avalanche now, as you say, firmly in the lead. We are having some small reports in chat of minor lag. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are playing the EUS Challenger Series right now, which is the salient part of the moniker here.
All right, so
going in.
yeah. Oh, we do have actually iFresh going in here on towards Sliver. Sliver might be in trouble here. Ace in the hole comes out. It will not get blocked out, but Sliver does manage to survive that. Explosive cask doesn't quite manage to connect, and Sliver lives to see another day. However, we do have once again Dan trying to shove out that middle lane. We do have Big Goose trying to help him. Ooh, the javelin almost landing on a nuke right there, as Anstrom and the rest of the Avalanche team moving in towards this bottom turret. Dude eating a javelin right there, forced to get back as Dan starts pushing this turret quite aggressively. True Shot Barrage comes across, and Millenium once again desperately trying to defend their turret, but it is looking very, very grim for them.
Make a gif of that explosive cask and call it he tried.gif. Regardless, though, they are continuing to siege this mid lane. They have, obviously, still got the Baron buff, which is giving them a lot of regen. Shyvana is unbelievably tanky and is just able to ignore the tower on a few hits. And then traps are landing. Nanook is taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, Nanook actually, once again, eating a javelin here for his team. That might spell real trouble. He is forced back towards his base here, his fountain, as this might just be the destruction of that turret, and that might just result in the destruction of this inhibitor. Now Shlea will be forced to try and defend that with the rest of his team, but he just gets forced back away, and Avalanche Prime once again take another inhibitor, and they are actually rotating over towards that very last inhibitor. And well, if they manage to take that one down, oh, here they go actually. Millenium going in there. Mover gets blown up first by the explosive cast. Now Doiby going so deep on that Avalanche team. Anstrom going down very fast here. The cask not quite landing on him. Ace in the hole comes out. That will get blocked out by Dan, however. Now Millenium forced back here as the javelin lands once again. Dan trying to get back in here on towards Doigby. Sliver trying to chase as well. And it is looking like they're actually going to try and take this, try and continue sieging this turret, rather.
But once again, Avalanche, they lose the fight, but they're taking advantage of how strong Nidalee is in this environment. They're using the health regen they've got, they're using the AP, they got the little bit of extra damage on that tower. They aren't panicking, essentially, if they come out behind in a fight, because they know the map pressure is in their favor. They know they can stick in and just look to get more damage down. They didn't get a lot of damage that time, but that doesn't matter. That's just their mentality right now. They aren't the kind of players that will panic just because a man died. If they can win a 4-on-5, they will engage the 4-on-5. They don't run on instinct, they run on their intellectual calls.
Alright, Avalanche Prime just taking some resources, taking the buffs. Ooh, Anstrom might be in trouble here. Or iFresh rather, as Anstrom is waiting in that bush to maybe go for an assault here, as he will scare iFresh off and pick that red buff up for himself. Now iFresh and Doigby getting forced away as Avalanche Prime start sieging once again. Now Baron isn't respawning quite yet, so Avalanche Prime are going to have to do without their Baron buffs, and Avalanche, Big Goose rather, is starting off this push on that top inhibitor turret once again. And if Millenium fails to defend this one, I really don't see Millenium coming out ahead in this game at all, but maybe.
It really does depend, because all of the engages are dependent on iFresh of jumping in and deleting someone. You've seen it, he took out Ezreal once, he took out Sona once. Those are the fights where generally Millenium come out on top, but Avalanche are just willing to tank damage to get the advantage on the objectives, and now the super creeps are pressuring that Nexus tower. This is just looking really dangerous for Millenium.
Yeah, so Avalanche Prime have picked themselves up that very last turret. iFresh, here he comes on towards Sliver. Sliver taking a lot of damage. He does manage to Arcane Shift out. iFresh taking so much damage he gets forced away, but Sliver has fallen to that explosive cast. Slayer forced away as well. Dude takes the dust for his team, as Avalanche Prime will now be looking to finish off that very last inhibitor, as the middle inhibitor has respawned in the meantime. Avalanche Prime rather will be finishing that off right now. Here come Doigby and Anouk trying to force Avalanche Prime away as fast as they can, and Avalanche Prime make a clean escape, but there's no structures standing for Millenium at all, except for the Nexus turrets.
And that really does sound bad for Millenium. They are actually behind on gold, not nearly as seriously actually as Avalanche were last game. I mean, Avalanche last game held on to all their inhibitor towers, but were about 20k gold behind. So it's a bizarre inversion of the situation we saw last game, where Avalanche were desperately clinging on to the game when they were losing by holding on to all their towers at huge gold cost. Millenium have kind of held on to the gold, but they've lost all their towers, and right now that puts them in a very awkward situation. Double super creep waves are spawning. Baron will spawn in 25 seconds. I imagine Avalanche will look to take that and then start to really crush down that Nexus, and I don't think Millenium can really answer the Baron at the very least.
Now, the moment they start leaving their base, those super minions are going to flood in there and flood their Nexus if they don't pay attention. So right now, as you said, Avalanche starting off this Baron, and that might be the beginning of the end for Millenium. So Avalanche will be taking this fairly quickly, as I do think Millenium know this is going on, and Avalanche rather, no problem at all, no contestation at all at that Baron. And here they go in towards that base of Millenium's, and that might be a serious threat to them.
Yeah, there is a respawning inhibitor as of right now, which is the bottom lane. It looks like Avalanche just want to ride the wave into the Nexus, then they can rotate round. It's a very short distance. Actually, Dan finds Doigby, but doesn't really have the damage. He's just scaring him. Putting the scare in him.
Alright, so Avalanche Prime once again rotating over towards that bottom inhibitor. And here comes iFresh with those home guards boot on towards Sliver. Sliver taking a lot of damage. He gets knocked away, iFresh that is, but Sliver bites it dust. Now Nanook might be in trouble as Anstrom is trying to finish him off, as we do have actually the Rengar going down. Now Doigby might be in trouble. He goes down a second, or third rather, as Anstrom is now looking to finish off Nanook and Dude, but this Nexus is surely going to fall. Avalanche Prime will take game number 2. That means we are going to a game number 3, ladies and gentlemen.
Another really fun game to watch, an interesting gameplay. Both teams really doing a lot strategically that was interesting there. Millenium this game, though, I feel like they picked themselves to counter the problems they encountered last game too much. They ended up with enough wave clear to outlast the end of the earth, but the problem was they could not force the engages, and as a result, they could not deal with Avalanche's poke, disengage, heal, re-engage style.